A very good evening to you all, and thank you for being with us here this evening. So, those who were here earlier, I think Michelle asked the question, how many of us use ChatGPT? And at the time, the place was not so populated, but I saw a number of hands up. So, for maybe middle senior associates who do not know, ChatGPT is where we young lawyers go, where you give us that assignment that we have no idea about. We just carry the whole assignment, put it into it, and sit back and see what ideas ChatGPT gives to us. And so I think majority of us have had an experience with working with ChatGPT one way or the other. My duty here this evening is simply to help you reconceptualize how to effectively use ChatGPT away from the traditional practice of carrying the entire question or answer you have been given and putting it into ChatGPT. There's a more systematic way of getting a prompt that would assist you get better feedback from ChatGPT, and that is what I'm here to assist you to do. So, I trust everybody knows what ChatGPT is, but as we've all come to know, ChatGPT is that thing that came out of nowhere that is said to know everything. And so whatever you want to know about the world, you put it in there, it will tell you something. As to whether it's accurate or not, that you cannot vouch for, but it will tell you something. Now, ChatGPT operates as a model that has been trained on large data sets. So large a data set that it can be anything you want it to be. It can be a mechanic, it can be perhaps even a kebab seller by the road, it can be a lawyer, it can be a doctor. What it means is that for you to be able to get what you want out of ChatGPT, you need to speak to it. Because the idea of ChatGPT is to help it communicate to you as if you were talking to another human. And so some people have described ChatGPT as a word wizard. Because as humans, our basic way of communication is language and words. Whether it is English, whether it's Hausa or Chi. And so the best way to be able to get ChatGPT to give you what you want is to be able to speak the language that it understands. And in ChatGPT terms, we call it prompt. What do you give it? What do you ask of it? Based on how good what you ask of it is, it would give you what you are looking for. And so, like I've said, usually what people do is to lift the entire thing they are looking for and then put it in ChatGPT. But away from that, you can conceptualize getting feedback from ChatGPT as some sort of science or system where, just like we were taught in drafting for those of us who are lawyers, and for those who are not lawyers yet, as you were taught in IRAC, once you see a problem question, you see the issues, you see the relevant law, you see your application, there are parts to your answer whenever you are given a problem question. You can conceptualize using ChatGPT in a similar manner. If you are able to keep the necessary parts together in the query that you give ChatGPT, what it means is that you are going to get better feedback than just asking it generally. So for somebody who knows this art and science of being very specific and going about asking his questions more directly and in a particular way, they are likely to get better feedback by way of law than you would. I need to remind you again that ChatGPT can be anything. And so if you want to talk to it as a lawyer, you have to use the legal language. Now, the first thing you have to do when you want to ask a query or you want to develop a prompt for ChatGPT is to ask yourself, first of all, in what role am I asking this question? Am I asking this question as a commercial lawyer? Am I asking this question as a legal intern? Am I asking this question as a negotiator, as a dispute lawyer? If you give ChatGPT a role, ChatGPT would assume that role and speak to you as if you are the person writing or giving that feedback. And so you're an intern. You've been given an assignment to write a memo or to do legal research or analysis. The role you give ChatGPT will be telling it as an intern, can you give me precedent on this? Then it knows, even in terms of tone and language, it understands the perspective from which you are asking it. It works better that way than just lifting the entire thing and putting it into it. Now, away from assigning it a role, you also want to provide context. I believe when Adam was speaking, he mentioned, like I say, and Dennis too, tech is not bordered by territory. It is at large. And so when you ask a question of ChatGPT, it will give you feedback. But as to whether that feedback has the context of either the UK, the US, it has the context of some other region, you do not know. And so what helps is to limit the context of what you are asking ChatGPT. So as an intern, using Ghanaian law, can you, and then you ask your query. What that does is that it eliminates any feedback in relation to your query that is outside the context that you provide. So that if ChatGPT has feedback or knows of that same point in relation to a different jurisdiction, it does not give you that jurisdiction's results, which may be inapplicable to what you want to use for that moment. What context also does is that you can also use context to eliminate certain considerations in the query that you ask. So, using Ghanaian law, but not considering this, then immediately ChatGPT rules out any resource that relates to the part that you have eliminated. And so providing context allows, just like when you speak to somebody and you ask questions generally, the person may attempt to give you an answer. As a lawyer, I am a dispute lawyer, and I'm also a tech enthusiast. If you come to me and you tell me you've entered into a contract with somebody, and this is the feedback, the questions I'm likely to ask you would be, who was that person? Where was the contract entered into? Because if you're asking me to go to court, then I need to know whether I can go to court either in Accra or in Kumasi or any other place. And so for me to be able to tell you properly whether the instruction you are giving me to sue can actually lead me to sue for you, you need to provide me with context in respect of the instructions. So you have to, in addition to assigning a role to ChatGPT, also provide proper context in respect of the query. Think of context as the parameters you set around what you want to ask it. Whether you want it to focus on a particular thing or whether you want it to exclude all others. That is the context that you provide for ChatGPT. Now, away from that, you also have to be very specific and direct with your language. We often tend to think that because it's a machine, regardless of what language you put in, it is going to give you feedback related to it. But because you want ChatGPT to speak as a lawyer, you want to use the proper legal term when you ask a query. So that if you can ask ChatGPT to give you precedent on, say, stay of proceedings, and you can describe stay of proceedings in a different way, you are better off using the term stay of proceedings than using a literal English term that may still mean the same thing. Because when you use the term, the prompt work by words. It gathers results associated with the language and the terms that you use. And so the more legalese you use, the more you narrow the scope of the feedback that ChatGPT is going to give to you. If you use loose or English terms, then you increase the likelihood of ambiguity, which may also dilute the results that you get from it. So you have to assign a role, you have to set parameters or context, eliminating unnecessary things you don't want it to consider, and also highlighting things that perhaps you want it to consider. And then in addition to that, you use the proper legal language or terms so that you are able to elicit from it answers directly related to the query that you want. Now, I have found in my experience with ChatGPT that depending on what you want, it may give you either elongated answers or short answers. And in my experience, usually when the length is long, there may be things that are omitted when you simplify it. And so when you want a particular query, you want to play around with the length of the query. Ask it to give you the concise version. Ask it to give you the longer version. If you are not convinced, regenerate it. When you regenerate it, it rearranges, reorders, and you will find every other time that you will get something in the previous version that was not in the next version. So it is not a touch and go when you do ChatGPT. It is not just putting your query in and the first results you get, that is it, you are done. You have to play around with the feedback it gives you. Try the longer versions, try the shorter versions. If you want it to simplify what it has given you, ask it to simplify it. And then every thread of ChatGPT you open is like a conversation. So whatever query you ask, following that particular thread will take account of every other instruction you have given previously. And so it gets to a point, if you want it to eliminate everything you have given previously, you have to go back to providing context. Excluding all context previously provided, then you now ask your query. Else, every query you ask on that thread would assume you are just following up on every question you have asked in it. And so if you don't want your answers to be confused based on the previous instructions you have given, then you are better off starting a new thread in respect of that query than just following it in the previous context that you have done. State your output format, and this is what most people often don't do. Like I said, assume you are talking to ChatGPT and you want it to give you something specific. If you want a memo, ask for a memo. If you want the output to be for purposes of legal research and analysis, ask it. If you want it to be an outline, tell it, develop an outline for this purpose. State how you want the output to be. That way, the result that it gives you is directly usable, and you don't have to re-modify what it has given you to suit the purpose that you want. But most importantly, whatever ChatGPT gives you, remember, it is not infallible, and so you have to modify it. As a person, I like to use ChatGPT as a starting point whenever I have a query. Sometimes it gives you ideas that may not have come to your mind if you were thinking of it by yourself. Then based on that feedback, you build on it, and then you polish it up to suit how you want it. Don't take hook, line, whatever it gives you, because we've had experiences, particularly with lawyers, using ChatGPT in other jurisdictions and then running into regulatory trouble because the cases that were cited were inappropriate and all of that. And just like we learned to write written submissions, to answer law questions, to write opinions, you have to practice. By doing it regularly, you gain the skill of being able to extract from ChatGPT appropriate, concise content without having to play around too much. This may perhaps all sound too casual, but let me burst your bubble. The art of being able to write proper prompts is actually becoming a career opportunity in other places. Now, legal prompt engineers are being hired just to be able to develop, test, and optimize what sort of queries bring out the best from generative AI and artificial tools. So learning actually how to be able to prompt AI properly, in this case ChatGPT, can open a new door by way of even a career opportunity where all you do is that you become a legal engineer prompt where when a generative AI or a new AI is developed, you just try and see which easy prompt. And some law firms across the globe now have sent out a series of such prompts, even for use for ChatGPT, where they teach lawyers that if you want to get proper feedback, this is what to do, this is what to avoid. And so practicing it becomes easy and well to do for you to get that feedback. An example of what a proper prompt by way of ChatGPT is, and I would encourage you to try and see if you can find the issues of assigning a role, providing a context, determining the output format that you want, and also being specific with your instructions. So you state that as counsel of a music artist in Ghana, immediately you are telling it what role you are assuming in the question that you are asking. Make an outline. You stated the output you want of negotiation topics for performance at a concert this Christmas. The negotiations are towards the execution of a formal contract. What you've immediately told ChatGPT is that I'm going into a negotiation as counsel for a music artist who is to perform at a Christmas concert. What topics or what issues do you think I should be negotiating at that? And I tried this prompt and I was like, okay, that's a good one. Because it actually gave me things that, as a dispute lawyer who has been drafting contracts, If you ask me to draft a contract for you, I may draft the contract, but I may not look at it. The good thing is that because it is a tech tool, it actually accounts for some of the emerging tech problems that exist within the creative industry that we traditional practitioners may not be exposed to yet. And so it helps you improve on getting that feedback. The second example, summarize the key legal principles and precedents related to a stay of proceedings in Ghana, with a focus on recent developments and notable judgments. What you do by asking it to focus on recent developments and notable judgments is that you immediately eliminate very old decisions that may be related to stay of proceedings. So that is accentuating what you want ChatGPT to focus on in terms of the query that you are making into it, while minimizing what you don't want it to double in. Then provide concise and relevant information suitable for legal research and analysis. So you tell it, after doing what you have done, I need you to provide concise examples suitable for legal research and analysis. So the output it will give you will be something that you can apply in relation to your legal research and then analysis. I must caution, however, that there is a limitation in respect of ChatGPT, particularly within our jurisdiction. Because as was discussed in the first panel, we don't have a lot of local products. And so those who do the development of these products gather what they know from the internet and don't do as well an in-depth data training. In the case of ChatGPT, it will tell you that its training is up to 2021. And so beyond 2021, the data that is being trained on may not be useful in providing you the feedback you want. But there's also a jurisdictional limitation, and I believe that is what Eden mentioned when he alluded to it giving it a wrong case. The likelihood that ChatGPT may be able to find a local statute or a local decision is not so large. Perhaps if you ask it to analyze a case in the common law or a case in US, it can easily do it for you because it sits within that jurisdiction. That is why, thankfully, we have teams like Aspire AI developing our own local tools that focuses on using our Ghanaian judgments and therefore enabling us to assess things like this, because when you go to Aspire AI and you ask it stay of proceedings in Ghana, it will give you a host of stay of proceedings. If you ask it elements that the court considers for purposes of grant of stay of proceedings, it would easily do it for you. And so I always advise that when you get the feedback, as a lawyer, our training teaches us to clarify and to verify. And so you don't just take what you have and then shove it onto paper and send it to the court. In conclusion, ChatGPT is a very useful tool for us as lawyers, whatever facet you practice in, whether corporate, whether commercial, and particularly when I speak to my corporate friends, they are enthused because the corporate world is such that because of the borderless nature, you get clients from across the world and you are suddenly being asked to write opinions and do things that in your training as a 6 years, you've never heard of. But ChatGPT is able to break down some of these very simple concepts for you and helps you. And that is why you need to master the prompting for the best reports. Now, I have to tell you that for purposes of this presentation, I told ChatGPT to generate a 15 Tech Talk presentation to explain ChatGPT to Ghanaian lawyers. And 80% of what I've just told you in terms of outline and content was generated by ChatGPT. Thank you very much.